Hi ma'am, my name is Axel Dave Kabugason from the Bachelor of Science in Accountancy in the College of Accounting Education. And today, as part of the project number 1, I'm gonna talk about deductive reasoning. So first of all, what is deductive reasoning? Deductive reasoning is a process of reasoning from one or more statements to reach a specific conclusion. It is also called as top-down thinking, which starts from the general ideas down to conclusion. So according to the deduction reasoning theory, the statements are just like a funnel. At the top of the funnel, it is a very broad general ideas down with the bottom of the funnel, which reaches in a specific conclusion. So therefore, in deductive reasoning, it starts with 2 or more ideas or general ideas in order to come up with a specific conclusion. So in deductive reasoning, there are common steps that we have commonly seen in so many examples in this deductive reasoning. These steps are, the first step, it is when we create major premise or major assumptions or general assumptions. And the second step, it is where there is a supporting premise in our major premise, which is the minor premise. This is the assumption that that supports our first assumption. And the third step, it is where we come up with a specific conclusion. For example, all noble gases are stable. Helium is a noble gas. Therefore, helium is stable. And this kind of statements, or in these statements, it is we can conclude that it is a deductive reasoning because it starts with a major premise, which is that all noble gases are stable, or it is a general idea, and it supports with a minor premise, which states that helium is a noble gas. And through those two premises, we can conclude that helium is stable or is stable, which is now our conclusion. So moreover, in deductive reasoning with regards to its major steps, it also comes up with the syllogism. So what is syllogism? Syllogism is the most basic form of deductive reasoning. It is the two premises that share some idea that supports a conclusion. It can be expressed through if A is equal to B is equal to C, and then A is equal to C. So in syllogism, it is a form in a deductive reasoning which can be expressed through that example in my PPT, which is that A is equal to B, then B is equal to C, then A is equal to C, which is that A is equal to B is the major premise, and B is equal to C is the minor premise that we make in our deductive reasoning, and we can come up with a conclusion that A is equal to C. So for further information, we can use that form in order to create an example of deductive reasoning. So this example is a deductive reasoning that uses the syllogism. All dolphins are mammals. All mammals have kidneys. And therefore all dolphins have kidneys. So in these statements, we can say that it is a deductive reasoning because it states a major premise or major assumption, which is that all dolphins are mammals, which is a general idea. And then it states with a minor premise, which supports a major premise, which is that all mammals have kidneys. Therefore, we come up with a conclusion that all dolphins have kidneys. And by the use of syllogism, we can say that A is equal to the dolphins, B is equal to the mammals, and C is equal to the kidneys. So following the syllogism pattern, A is equal to B is equal to C, then A is equal to C, we can say that all dolphins are mammals, which is A is equal to B, and all mammals have kidneys, which is B is equal to C, And then we can conclude that all dolphins have kidneys. So that is our third form of the syllogism, which is A is equal to C. So through that form, we can also make a deductive reasoning. But let us take note that not all deductive reasoning or statements, or not all deductive reasoning using the syllogism form would come up with a true conclusion and a valid reasoning. So for further information, we can say we can say that the conclusions of deductive reasoning could come up with it's either true or it's either false. So what are the true and false conclusion? Or what are those two? Ano yung pinagkaiba ng true and false conclusion in a deductive reasoning? So deductive reasoning is black and white. A conclusion is either true or false, and it cannot be partly true nor partly false. The strength of the link between the premises and the conclusion is used to determine if a deductive statement is true or false. So we can say that a conclusion of a deductive statement is true if the strength of the link between the two premises and the conclusions has a very strong relationship. So if our two premises have is strongly true, or it is true, then we can conclude that our conclusion is a true conclusion. But on the other hand, if the strength of the link between the premise, our two premises, and our conclusion is very weak, or we can say that if the premise is not true all the time, or it is strongly false, then we can conclude also that our conclusion is also false. So to further more explain what are the true and false conclusions, here are the examples of the deductive statements which has a true and false conclusion. So let's start with true conclusion. So just like what I've said kanina, that if the premises are true in all situations and cannot be easily disproved by all means, then the deductive reasoning has a true conclusion. So in short, if those two premises can be proved all the time and it cannot be disproved by any observer or let's just say researcher, if it cannot be easily disproved, then we can say that we can come up with a true conclusion in our deductive statement. For example, if all men are mortal and Socrates is a man, then Socrates is immortal. So we can say that that statement is a deductive reasoning or deductive statement because it starts with general ideas, which is that if all men are mortal and Socrates is a man, then we came up with the conclusion that Socrates is mortal. So in this kind of example, or in this example of the deductive statement, we can say that it has a true conclusion. Why is that? Because the major premise and the minor premise, let's just say the major premise, which is that all men are mortal, we can easily prove that all men are mortal. Kailan tayo nakakita ng mga men na immortal in this world? So we cannot say that all men are immortal. Therefore, that kind of premise or assumption is true in all situations. And it is followed by the Socrates is a man. So therefore, the relationship between two premises are very strong because it starts with a general idea, which is that all men are mortal, which is true in all situations. Then second, we came up with a minor assumption, which is Socrates is a man. It is very connected with each other. Therefore, it has a strong relationship, and the premises are true in all situations. Therefore, we came up with a conclusion, which is that Socrates is mortal, with a true conclusion. So therefore, that deductive statement has a true conclusion. On the other hand, the false conclusion, if the premises can be easily disproved by any means, then there is no way that a conclusion can be true. Therefore, the deductive reasoning has a false conclusion. For example, all swans are white. Samantha is white, therefore Samantha is a swan. So the major premise, which is that all swans are white, is not applicable, or it's not true in all situations, because there were swans that are color, let's just say brown. There are swans that color black, and just because you saw 10 swans, you can make an assumption that all swans are white. So that statement, or that major premise, which is that all swans are white, can easily be disproved by any means, by any researcher or observer or any person. It can be easily disproved. And so that so our major premise is easily disproved. Therefore, our conclusion is easily disproved also, which results to a false conclusion. So therefore, that statement, or that deductive statement, has a false conclusion. So to furthermore understand what are the examples, or what really are the deductive reasoning examples with whether it has a true conclusion or a false conclusion, here are some of my examples that I've stated in this PowerPoint. Example number 1, which is a true conclusion. All numbers ending in 0 or 5 are divisible by 5. The number 35 rather, ends with a 5. So 35 must be divisible by 5. So we can say that this is a deductive reasoning, because it starts with a general idea or a major premise which states that all numbers ending in 0 or 5 are divisible by 5. On the other hand, it is a true conclusion, because in that major or general idea that all numbers ending in 0 or 5 are divisible by 5 is true all the time. We in mathematics, we can say that any number that ends with 0 or 5 is really divisible by 5, just like number 60, it is divisible by 5, or it can be divided by 5. Just like number 35, it can be divided also by 5. So this is, therefore, it has a true conclusion. So it is a deductive reasoning that has a true conclusion. Example number 2, another this time it has a false conclusion. So all farmers like burgers. Jethro liked chicken wings. Therefore, Jethro is not a farmer. So in the first place, it is a deductive reasoning, because it starts with a general idea or a major premise followed by a minor premise, which is all farmers like burgers and Jethro likes chicken wings. But it is a false conclusion, because the general idea or that major premise is not true all the time. We cannot say that all farmers like burgers. I have may kakilala ako na farmer na hindi naman type yung burger. And so we can say, or we can easily disprove that major premise, which is that all farmers like burgers. So therefore, that conclusion, which is that Jethro is not a farmer, is a false conclusion. So therefore, that is a deductive reasoning that has a false conclusion. So moreover, so to fully understand more about our topic, which is the deductive reasoning, I have more examples here, just like in the example number 3, which has a true conclusion. It's dangerous to drive on icy streets, so that's a major premise. The streets are icy now, so that's a minor premise or a support on that major premise. So we came up with a conclusion that it would be dangerous to drive on the streets. Example number 4. All dogs have ears, so that's a major premise. Golden retrievers are dogs. So that's a minor premise or a support on that major premise, which is that all dogs have ears. And therefore, we came up with a conclusion that golden retrievers have ears. So that's a deductive reasoning with a true conclusion, because indeed all dogs have ears. So an example number 5, which has a false conclusion statement. Carrots are orange and oranges are orange. Therefore, oranges are carrots. So that's the reason why it is a false conclusion, because the relationship between the two premises, which is the major premise and the minor premise, the major premise here is that carrots are orange, and the minor premise is oranges are orange. So they don't have much relationship with each other. So that's why their relationship is very weak, or weak, let's just say weak, and it come up with a conclusion that is false. So this is a deductive reasoning that has a false conclusion. Example number 6, another false conclusion. All actors are handsome. Tom Jones is handsome. Therefore, Tom Jones is an actor. So that's a deductive reasoning which has a false conclusion. And last example, example number 7, all dogs have tail, which is a true conclusion. All dogs have tail. That is a major premise. Buddy is a dog, or the name of a dog. So that's a minor premise, and therefore Buddy has a tail. So therefore, that's the statement has a true conclusion. So that's all about the topic, or my topic, which is all about the deductive reasoning. So thank you for watching. But in conclusion, I can say that this deductive reasoning is very useful in real life situations, especially for me as a future accountant. Let's claim that when we used to manage an accounting firm, or let's just say we are an accounting manager in a particular company, then we can come up with a proper conclusion using deductive statements. So that's all again about my presentation and about my reporting, all about deductive reasoning. And thank you so much for watching. God bless and have a nice day.